Everybody. I think we are assembled. For those of you who are watching at home on television, let me tell you that you can't see the two screens over here, but they're pictures of children who are together in what I call a chain gang, walking along the edge of the lake. And I'm very pleased to see that all of you are here without having been pulled in by some sort of chain gang. I'm going to ramble on for a minute, for we have a group of another 8 people or so coming in the back of the room. So a couple of quick housekeeping things. We're trying to make it so that when people are viewing this later on YouTube or on our closed circuit TV system, they can see everybody. So what we'd like to have is all speakers come up to the front. We have a microphone on a stand here and speak from here. That's all of the presenters, and when it comes time for floor chairs and building chairs, to do the same thing. So that's the way it will work. Now, I wish I knew some funny stories to tell you because there's a group of people coming in. But I suppose we should just begin. What do you think? All right. Oh, there's an elevator down? Yeah. What? After all this progress? No, Tim, come back. Somebody, you have a huge staff that's working on it. All right. So let's begin with an invocation, and please welcome Pastor Leslie. Could you do the mic here? Thank you.
Good morning. Frank and I talked about what we should do this morning, and we both decided an opening prayer was exactly right. So, let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we give you thanks for your presence among us. We find our joy in you. Guide us in our decisions and fill us with your joy. We thank you for beautiful spring days, flowers and trees that fill our life with beauty, and the companionship of friends and family. Bless us in our time together. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much. So let me just walk you through. You picked up a paper agenda at the back, but to give you a sense of what we're going to be doing. The first part of the meeting today, we will be hearing from your representatives on the executive committee. Then you can see we have a whole series of reports from Hearthstone Management, and we have a guest speaker. So that will be interesting. Then we will go through our Residents' Council business, a report from the Residents' Council meeting that happened a week ago today, as well as the Dining Committee report, and then floors and chairs. And so we should begin with a report from our leadership team. And I tell you, Meg is just doing an incredible job with our minutes all the time. Here she is, typing away right now. And she's here just before she's leaving. So, you know, it's kind of a last-minute rush. We thank you for your help.
Well, I've been told my minutes are too long and you don't read them, but I've also had some compliments. So they will probably be shorter this time. Is the mic not on?
The mic is on. You need to point your mouth on. Here, let's do this. Or just talk right.
Okay, all right. Okay. I can hear, yeah. Anyway, I can hear that the mic is on. So I'm seeking approval of the minutes of the last assembly meeting, which were sent out some time ago, but I hope you all saw them.
It has been moved. Do I hear a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done. Brevity is the soul of wit. The Treasurer's report. Allison?
Thank you, Frank. One payment of $149.32 has been made in May to the library for purchase of books. The current balance in the resident council account as of May 29 is $2,465.05. Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, we continue to accumulate funds for the Employee Appreciation Fund, which is distributed at the end of the year. And of course, here with another wonderful story about how important all of that is. Okay, Carolyn?
Thank you. Is it still on? Now it's on. Good. Thank you for being here. My responsibility, I think you know by now, is to inspire you every month to remember the Employee Appreciation Fund and to give generously for all those who serve us day in and day out. The way I'm approaching this year is that every month I want to have a different vignette, and often it's based on things that you tell me. So anything that has to do with staff and how you've been served, I welcome hearing about it. Today, my vignette features 2 boats. I hope you can see them and that they look like boats. And they're 2 different kinds of boats, and I want you to decide which one you would like to represent the Hearthstone. Now, this lovely boat is a cruise ship. I hope you can see that. There's a lot of room to be out on the deck. If you're in the more expensive seats, I guess rooms, you get a porthole, whatever. But the cruise ship represents being on vacation, having all your needs met, wonderful food, all kinds of entertainment, meeting new people, time just to relax out on the deck, and it's total vacation. So that's the kind of ship this is. This one, can you see this little one? Can anybody guess what that's supposed to be? It looks like a canoe. It's the best I could do. But it's really a racing shell, okay? And in Seattle, where we've got UW crews, both men and women who are wonderful, and people here at the Hearthstone who've even rowed on crew or still rowing now, like Meg here, it's a racing shell, should be very familiar. This represents a different kind of boat. It represents where each person is important, each person has a job to do, everyone must work together, leadership is important. This little smaller one here is the coxswain, who is a person who is very important for getting the whole crew to work together. Maybe it's hard to see, but all genders, both men and women are included. Different nationalities are included. We think of boys in the boat because of Seattle, but there's certainly more than boys in the boat. And we here, men and women, we have different abilities, different capabilities, but we all need to do our job. And volunteering here is important as well. I had a conversation several months ago. I met a new person, no one here, and I asked her where she lived. And she said, well, I live on a cruise ship that never leaves its port. I thought, well, that's interesting, and she was referring to her retirement home. So, do we want to live on a cruise ship that never leaves its port and just meets our needs, or do we want to be part of a community where we're all members and we're all important? Thanks for listening, and thanks for being generous to the Employee Appreciation Fund. If you have any questions about the pink sheet, the yellow sheet, please come up and see me afterwards, and please carry the information back to your floors. Thank you.
Thank you. That's wonderful. All right, time to hear from the management. Now, for those of you who see this, and you see Jill is at the very top of the list, Jill is at the very top of the list. So why would that be? Well, because we know she's extremely important. She has an extremely important mission. In just a few minutes, she's taking another group on a tour. So we're going to have Jill come up and talk about marketing before she then brings more people onto our cruise ship.
The SS Hearthstone. Good morning. Last Friday, we welcomed a new couple to Cove East, Jim Blagg and Sarah Allen. I don't see them here today, but with their addition, we have just one more apartment that's empty in Cove East, and that will be filled by the end of the month, and we'll be at 100% occupied in Cove East at the end of the month. We currently are serving 190 independent living residents. We are undertaking our first major renovation with our internal renovations team. That's happening now. You've probably heard some of the noise coming from the 9th floor as a result of that. That will serve as a roadmap for Gary and his team going forward for future renovations. We have a couple of those that are in the planning stages, and you'll hear more about those in future meetings. Last month, I talked about sales versus occupancy and how we look at, sales versus actual occupancy and how we measure that. So from a sales occupancy perspective, everything that's rent ready and ready to be lived in now, we're at 95% occupied. When you look at every apartment that's vacant in the community, whether or not it's being holden for whatever reason, our occupancy number is 88%. Right now, we're at $2.5 million in entrance fees year to date, and by the end of June, we'll be at $2.9 million. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, oh, she could clap for it. Rosie, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I see we have a new process here. Okay, I have some notes for you all. Good morning. Few update highlights for everyone from a couple of different departments. So first of all, last month's COVID vaccine clinic, very successful. We had over 100 residents receive the vaccine, which is awesome. Our Hearthstone newsletter, some of you may have received a copy or shared a copy of the new Hearthstone newsletter for June. This is going to be a monthly occurrence. We have a July newsletter coming up. We have to get all information into the service that produces this document for us by the 15th of each month. So by the end of next week, we need to get all information in for the July newsletter. Now, the way that this affects all of you is the fact that we have not named this newsletter yet. And if you notice, when you came in and signed in, there was a ballot with a few prospective names. If you could all be so kind as to complete a ballot in the back before you leave the room, it will help us to name this newsletter anything other than the Hearthstone newsletter. The third update I have is relating to the bistro, and we are entering into phase 2. Some of you may have already taken a trip down to the bistro and had a hot panini sandwich. They're very delicious, and I've heard lots of feedback about these sandwiches. The espresso machine will be in about a week and a half. It was finally approved by Department of Health. There was something going on with the manual on how that machine is cleaned. It's a self-cleaning machine, but apparently it wasn't okay with the state of Washington. It is now. So you'll be able to get a drink that is made from an espresso product, like cappuccino. The fourth item I have is related to the dining services club car. Now, some of you may have noticed it in the parking garage there. Cute little white golf cart. It's electric, and the purpose of that vehicle is to transport staff and supplies, dining services supplies from our lakeside kitchen over to our bistro. So It's been in the works for many, many months. We finally have it licensed to someone other than Hallie. But nevertheless, we finally were able to take care of that. Lots of effort from Joe. He got us exactly what we were looking for. So look for that vehicle on the street. Maybe you've seen it already. I believe yesterday was their official start date to use that vehicle. And that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Pedro?
Right. Good morning, everyone. So just a few things. The first one is about our first Tuesday bus trip, which is happening next week. That's the very first one that we have, June 13th. So we're excited about that. That's the very first one that we have. As you guys already know, we're gonna have every Tuesday and Thursday, we're gonna have big bus trips happening. So really excited about that, starting next week. Also, we're almost done with putting together things for the volunteer packet. We're hoping to put everything together by tomorrow, hopefully Monday. This is great news because that way we can send all this information to our potential volunteers that we will have coming in working with you guys. So that's really exciting as well. Also, we were able to improve the quality of all our events, concerts, lectures on Mondays. We had higher attendance every single time, so it's really, really good to see that. That shows me that my team and I were doing a good job of bringing quality products to you guys, so that's really good to see. Moving forward, just a couple of things. We want to relaunch the Pen Pals program. I already got in touch with the Lincoln High School, I believe it is. They're really excited about coming back. I know they wanted to make this happen for a while, but because of COVID, we couldn't make it happen. They're really excited. We just got to work a few things out, but that's going to happen in the near future. And then we really want to improve services in the licensed areas as well. My job is to focus on independence living, but as well, I want to make sure that we improve on the health center, memory care, assisted living as well. So there's a few things regarding activities that we could improve and make it better. We had a lot of input, a lot of positive feedback, so we want to make sure that this happens in the future. And that's it. That's all I have to share for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim? Let's just assume the elevators are running.
I'm not sure yet. So this is kind of intimidating. I'm going to tell you the truth. Right here in front of the boss, okay, and the other bosses. I'm going to focus on a couple of things today because it's the things I'm hearing a lot about, either through email, voice messages, people catching me in the hall, things like that. And those things are things like, and I thought we were done with this, things like HVAC, thermostat-related issues, primarily over at the Coves. So I want to give you an update on that, but the other bigger one that I thought we should have resolved by now is the grounds. There are a lot of issues still going on with the grounds and with the irrigation, and I'll update you on that. And then finally, I'll talk about our department. So I got a few notes so I don't lose track. And just to start with, I've been meeting with Brightview. That's our current contractor that manages our grounds. And some of the discovery is that we are in a local agreement with Brightview. And what we're striving to do, because I found out that they're actually a Sodexo provider too, is to get on their national agreement. So we're seeking a work release to get out of the current agreement and get on a more national agreement, which will provide us more resources and more opportunities to get this right, okay? So some of the issues that many of our people have noticed: pruning, improper pruning, not the right kind of pruning, leaving all those clippings on the sidewalk and then walking away and they're still there, okay? Frustrations, irrigation, it's up over at the Coves now, but it's not right. There's heads that aren't positioned right, or they need to be changed out, things like that. And around Lakeside, there's a bigger issue with we have no irrigation at this moment. And the primary reason we don't have irrigation here is we've got the time clock, we've got the check valves, but nobody thought to hook the water up to the main check valves, okay? So that's becoming a bigger problem because it's it's a really old system, probably from 60-ish, and we have the city doing some locating to find out where the valves are, where the pipes run, and hopefully I can find some as-built drawings and kind of steer us in the right direction. So, you know, this is stuff that should have been addressed at the end of last year when irrigation was being handled by this new company, and it wasn't. So we are moving forward. Had a great call this morning. One of the things I recommended to Brightview is it's pretty much lip service when I'm talking to the group about this kind of stuff. I want them in front of you, okay? They're your partner, okay? They need to take responsibility, okay? So I've asked them, and they've said yes. They didn't have a choice. I'm going to be talking to different reps in different areas and see about setting up some meetings where they're in front of you talking about some of the issues, okay? Sound good? Good direction? Okay, I see lots of heads bobbing, okay? Reggie's good with that. I'm happy. And I have that in red because I just got off a call before I walked in here with them. So, HVAC and thermostats, wow. Thought we were done with thermostats over at the Coves, but we're not, obviously. Last couple weeks, the same things that were happening before are happening again with just out of the blue, arbitrarily, somebody's thermostat will go to fan mode in the middle of the night. It's just doing some really weird stuff, and there's no rhyme or reason to it, okay? So we do have McDonald Miller back out here, but we're also working with McDonald Miller on a different level of responsibility, I'll call it that. Yesterday I had a meeting with their senior account person and talked about some of the concerns that we not only have over at Coves, but here at Lakeside, and some opportunities that may come their way in the near future. Again, that's another group that I've challenged them with, help me get in front of this. Help me get in front of this as much as possible. So they're up to the challenge, and if they're not, we'll say bye. I've invited them. Our department, who knows what our department is? That's a question. What's our department? Facilities, okay, I heard facilities. Did I hear laundry? Did I hear housekeeping? Did I hear grounds? Did I hear security? That's all facilities. I want to talk to you about what our real mission is here, is to provide support and service. And that's how I'm going to start rebranding our department as a whole, is we're support services, okay? We do housekeeping, we do maintenance, we do facilities, we do engineering, we do laundry, we do grounds, we do security, but we're here to support not only you, but the staff here with service. And that's the mindset I want to go forward with, moving, and I believe I have Reggie's blessing with that. So you'll see some changes with attitude, I hope, as we try to execute that. I have an ask, because everybody has their little committees here, right? We have dining committees and stuff like that. I'd like to propose to the group that we have a support services committee, okay? Something that where we could bring this type of stuff together before it gets out of hand, kind of stuff, okay? So if you're open to that, have a discussion during your business part of this, and I am very open to it to help lead that with your help. Okay, that's all I got. Any questions? Go for it. Reggie, I'm going for it. What you got?
Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. I'm curious when you said you'll see a change of attitude, because I haven't ever had an attitude problem with facilities.
Well, that makes me happy.
Yeah.
Actually,
Maybe
that
that's my personal.
That makes me happy, because that's, that's,
Repeat what you said.
this is a compliment. What I heard was she's not heard of any attitude for any staff member in our, we'll call it our big umbrella department and stuff. So that's excellent. That's awesome. Send those kudos my way, okay? Because I want to appreciate the team, okay? I want those phone calls more than the other phone calls and more than the other emails and stuff. Send me those emails like crazy, okay? Okay.
Great.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And of course now, our CEO, Reggie.
Hi, good morning.
Her successful tour. Thank you, Jill.
Oh, yeah. And anybody else on our staff is free to go at any point. Good morning. It's nice to see all of you. It's almost a room full of people. It's great to be able to be here. I'm actually here not reporting at my level. I'm here as a surrogate for our Chief Financial Officer, Jack McKittrick. Jack will be here next week, but his visit did not coincide with this meeting, so I offered to just give you a couple of updates. The first is, and I think there are some of you that may either be bondholders or know of bondholders for the financing that was done at the two Cove buildings. Part of the requirement for that is we provide an external audit. We use an organization called CLA, Clifton Larson. Allen, thank you. We've been working with them for quite some time this year. The audit was due on the 31st of May, and we missed that deadline. We're very, very close. That's a relevant point. But the reality is we are hung up on, I think, 2 transactions, and together those 2 transactions are material enough that CLA is not ready to fully sign off on the audit. A lot of discussions, a lot of meetings. Our Board of Trustees has a audit and finance committee. They have met, they've been on calls with Jack and with CLA. There it goes back, sorry. So the challenge at this moment is the lead auditor is on vacation this week. So I spoke to Jack this morning at length. We really hope to have this wrapped up early next week. Our goal is to be able to present to our board. Our Board of Trustees meets a week from today. And so that I'm glad we're that far along. Before I got here, toward the end of 2021, the audit had not been done, and I believe Jack told me with his help when he was brought in as a consultant, they finally got the audit done in August of that year. We'll be far ahead of that. It may be sometime in the first week or second week of June, but we're far ahead of August. In addition, just give you some update from that department. As many of you know, our controller, Chatou, resigned her position, it's been a couple of weeks ago, to be a stay-at-home mom. She had her first baby back around the holidays. She was on maternity leave during January, February, and March. She returned in April and almost immediately gave us her notice. And that's fine. We support that. We're happy for her, but it left us with a little bit of a challenge. Add to that the fact that she'd been gone for 3 months, and now you sort of realize how difficult it has been for Jack and our 2 remaining accounting team members to work with CLA to get that audit done. There's another factor. In our health center, we accept both Medicare and Medicaid. Those 2 agencies, one federal, one state, require us to submit what is called a cost report. Very comprehensive, detailed accounting of the prior year. Those 2 cost reports are more pressing than the audit. So we do those first. I'm happy to report both of those have been submitted. The Medicaid cost report was 2 days late, and we suffered a $50 a day penalty, so we can live with that. And the Medicare cost report was submitted on time. So we're glad to know those have done. Those always take precedent ahead of the actual audit. In terms of that department personnel, we have been for some time looking for an additional person sort of on the working end of that department, and that is someone for accounts payable. We have for quite some time asked, or burdened, I should say, our accounts receivable person, that's Jillian, if you've ever met her. Jillian has been doing both accounts receivable and accounts payable. That's a lot for an organization this big, so we made the decision about 6 weeks ago to hire an accounts payable specialist. We've had a number of applicants. I believe Karen, our HR director, told me that she and Jack have some interviews set up, so we hope to have that person on board pretty quickly. In terms of Chatu's role as controller, most organizations of this size would not have both a controller and a chief financial officer. That's some duplicity there. So what we have decided to do is, rather than replace the controller position, we opened up a new position, and we've been advertising now for 2 or 3 weeks, and we're working with a couple of outside recruiters. But the new position is called Director of Accounting. And the director word is important around here. The majority of our staff at the most senior level are either executives like Rosie and Jack and I, or they are directors, department heads, directors. So we're going to switch to a director of accounting. And I'm not telling you anything that Jack McKittrick doesn't know, but Jack lives in St. Louis, Missouri. He comes here at least once a month, sometimes twice. He reports to the board, he reports to me, but he is not here on a day-to-day basis managing the department. So one of the reasons we want to have an accounting director is someone that will be here every day working with the team that we have in place and the new person we're going to hire. We are essentially intimating with that job ad that this is a CFO track position, meaning that the person we hire, we expect to grow into a CFO, a chief financial officer, within a reasonable period of time, 6 months, a year, 18 months. So Jack will continue in the role and continue to work remotely, and he is part-time, because I want him to be available to train the new person, to teach them anything they don't know about our special part of the world, the CCRC industry and long-term care, because we may hire someone great that comes out of manufacturing or real estate or some other business, and they don't really understand what we do. Jack can close the gap on that. So he will continue to work with us as CFO until the point in time we make a decision to advance the Director of Accounting into the CFO role. And again, there's no strict timeline on that. That's our intention. I want you all to understand that. In terms of day-to-day accounting, we are behind the proverbial 8 ball. and I hate to admit this, but it's the truth. I have not seen published accurate financials thus far this year. And I go back to all those things I said first, which is we had 2 cost reports to deal with. Our controller was out on maternity leave. She's now has resigned, and we had to focus on the audit. So the audit is wrapping up, should be done in the next week to 10 days, and then there will be a return to focusing on month-to-month financials. If you've ever run a business or worked in a business and had a department and a budget, if you don't know whether or not you're on track for your budget, you don't know how to operate. And so it's been very frustrating for me. I don't blame anyone. It's just I was in banking for 10 years, and one of my jobs was to analyze businesses. What do you think I looked at every day, all day long? And so not having those here has been frustrating for me. Last year was a little better than we've done so far this year, but we were often 60 days or more looking at closed financials. So if we closed, let's say May, it was July or August before I was seeing them. That was bad enough. Now it's June, and I haven't really seen January published finalized, accurate financials. So I just want you all to understand my pain in that regard. That's pretty much from an accounting standpoint. We obviously will do our IRS Form 990 report. That's the W-2 or 1040, I guess, would be the comparison for an individual. But the 990 is due, I think, at the end of August or in September. That'll be the next thing that Jack focuses his attention on. We do not use an outside auditor for that form, for that filing. We simply pull information off of the audit and drop it into that 990. The last thing I want to tell you, just a quick update. And Frank sent me an email early this morning. He kind of warned me. He said, don't talk about Touchdown because Touchdown is offline. It was, but only momentarily. When he came to my office, I picked up my phone. It was working. He then looked on his phone, and it was working. So it does happen. It's technology. It's electronics. There's a lot that goes into Touchdown working properly. But what I want to do is give you an update. And I'll give Hallie, our executive assistant, a tremendous amount of credit. She has worked very closely with a representative of Touchdown. And again, for anybody new or that has never heard of Touchdown, it has been in use at this building for years. It was not utilized well. The participation by residents was somewhere around 30%. We're already considerably higher than that. But we made the decision a few months ago to revamp or reconstruct what our Touchtown looks like to all of you. We are very, very close, and I know you get tired of hearing that, but it has been a drawn-out, long process. But the new application, and I know you can't see it from back there, but if you use Touchtown and you open it right now, I think you get 6 icons. Does that sound right? 6? Yes. 7. Do I have 8? No, sorry. Okay. So I have an advanced copy, and I know you can't see from there, but there are actually 14 icons that will now be available. One of the coolest ones is, oh, I need a work order. My sink is clogged. I click on a button that says work orders. The next thing you see is a list of, well, is that air conditioning? It's alphabetical, Tim. I'm sorry, but air conditioning is the first thing that comes up. Carpet, floors, grounds, those kinds of things. So plumbing is on down under the letter P in alphabetically. But you can click there, and then you can input your information. Touchdown will already have your name and your room number there, but you could just say sink clogged, right? And if you want to say, make sure I'm in the room or call me first, you can add that as a comment, help Tim and his team know what your expectations are. So that saves you from having to call maintenance, 5555, which you can always do. I'm just saying it saves a step. You don't have to call the front desk and have them put in a work order, and you don't have to stop one of the guys in the hall that's trying to do 4 other things and say, hey, when you get through, will you come unclog my sink? It will help us streamline. More importantly, and I know Tim would stand up and tell you why this is important, it allows us to track everything. Things like, this is the 3rd time this year we've unclogged that sink. Maybe we have another problem, okay? Or 3 residents in a row are reporting a heating problem. That could be a bigger issue. So this is how our support services team, because I'm endorsing his change here, but that's how we find out you have an issue. And remember that maintenance, housekeeping, security, all those areas under Tim's responsibility, they all see these work orders. They can see them. So we're excited about that. The underlying system is called Works Hub. That's what the front desk and me and Tim and all the folks in maintenance, many of our employees, our department heads, that's where they put work orders directly into Works Hub. Touchdown now gives you the ability to put things into Works Hub. We're pretty excited about that. But the rest of the story, Touchtown is pretty much ready. The last piece is we're going to organize a meeting of about 5 or 6 residents that have agreed to become ambassadors, in every sense of the word, for Touchtown. You know how to use it on your phone. You know how to help somebody else use it. They say, well, I tried to download it and it's asking for my Apple ID. You know how to help them figure out their Apple ID. we'll be a cheerleader for the product. And our goal is to get close to 80% or more utilization of this tool. So all of the things that we've been doing, especially Hallie, putting information into Touchtown, we want everybody to be able to see that. We will still send updates from our management team. We will still have items running on screens that tell you what's going on around the community. But this is literally in your pocket, a resource to everything you need to know here. We promote it with new residents. And I will say that if we have residents here that are not comfortable with technology, I think that's a polite enough way to say that, we will help them. We have actually have quite a few tablets, iPads, and things that were used for other purposes that Stephen now just has in our inventory. So we will go talk with a person that is not comfortable doing that and say, can we give you a very simple device? It's a tablet, you push power, there's a Touchtown icon, you click on it, and now you have those 14 things that you can follow and look at. We want everybody to have the ability to benefit from this tool. So that's my little cheerleading. So if you're interested in being one of those ambassadors, please let Hallie know. She is our direct contact now with our rep at Touchtown, and we have not planned a date yet. But if you're thinking, I really could do that, I'd like to do that, I love Touchtown, and I'll go ahead and tell you, Frank's already signed up. We just want folks that will be our ambassadors. The training will be, did she say hour, 2 hours? It'll be a long training. There'll be screens, there'll be a live presenter, and we're going to train folks that then become trainers, advocates, promoters, what we call ambassadors. So if you're interested in being a Touchtown ambassador, let us know. That is all I have as an update. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Reggie. I should mention, because I forgot to earlier, that we're absent 2 people. Georgia and Therese both have other things they needed to do today, so they're Did it go out? Hello. Earlier this week, Georgia and I met with several members of the Hearthstone Board of Trustees. We had a longer than an hour conversation with them with a wide range of discussion. They're feeding information to us about what they're doing, their long-range plans, that sort of thing, and then our giving them feedback from information that we had received from our Residents' Council meeting, which took place a week ago today. And I'll give you a little report on that in a little bit later. And members of the trustees agreed that it would be good for someone to come and represent the trustees at this meeting. So we are very fortunate to have the vice chair of the Hearthstone Board of Trustees, Harry Edman. Now, Harry, before you get up to talk, I need to tell you a little something about him. Harry is a meteorologist. He has his PhD in meteorology. A student of the weather. So confounded by the weather in the Pacific Northwest that when he came to the University of Washington, he gave it up and became an information technology specialist. So you can, in fact, recognize that on the Board of Trustees we have someone who can explain the weather to you and perhaps teach you Touchtown. Harry didn't know that, but let's welcome Harry Edman.
Thank you, Frank. It is really an honor to be on the Board of Trustees and to serve you in that position, because that's what we do. We are here as the Board of Trustees, and the word trustee really points it out. We are here to make sure that the long-range health of this organization continues. And like I said, we're here to serve the residents, because that's why this whole place is here. The board is there's several ways you could design a Board of Trustees, and our board is designed as a strategic board. We're not an operational board. The board hires a CEO, Reggie, and says, Reggie, you run the place. And we look at the long-term health of the organization, the strategic goals of the organization, where we're going. Of course, we also, since Reggie is our employee, he's one employee of the Board of Trustees, he's responsible to us. But he also comes to us for advice. You know, if for example, looking at the change in the CFO position, that's something he talks about with the board. Not that the board will make that decision, it's Reggie's decision. But the board can give him advice. And again, we're the accountability group for Reggie. But like I said, most of our efforts are looking at strategic planning, also the financial health of the organization. We have several committees on the board. We have Reggie mentioned the Audit and Investment Committee. Their job is to make sure the audit gets done and look at the investments that we have. We also have a Strategic Planning Committee, which I happen to be the chair of, to look at, you know, again, the short and long-term goals of the organization. Then we also have a Governance Committee, which is mainly involved with the governance of the Board of Trustees. And then finally, a Nominations Committee, because we're always looking for new members of the board. Each board member serves a 3-year term. You can serve a maximum of 3 consecutive 3-year terms. You're gone. So there's quite a bit of turnover, so we are always looking for new members, and especially looking for new members with certain qualifications. Like, for example, you heard about some of the issues about the physical plan of this building, so we're kind of looking for somebody who's in construction or real estate or something like that to help us decide what to do with this property as far as improvements, and you know, always be on the lookout for, are there opportunities for expansion if it makes sense. We don't want to do expansion for expansion's just for the purpose of doing expansion. It has to be something that makes sense for the long-term viability of this organization. And that's what we do. So that's kind of a summary of the board. We meet 6 times a year. And then, you know, sometimes we have a retreat. One thing I'll say that came out of the meeting with Frank and Georgia is that he passed around an old annual report that was evidently done by the board back in 2016 and 2017 and has dropped off the face of the earth. I think there's a great interest in the board of bringing that back in to give you a report of what's going on, a simplified financial report for the year. We really think that's important. Also want to express to you the importance of the residence survey that was done last year. That was very helpful to the board. We really appreciate your taking the time to fill those out and send them in. We take all the comments very seriously. Because again, that's one way we know what's going on. We know how Reggie's job is being done. You know, he knows what needs to be done too. It's really was very helpful. We're also in the process of doing an employee survey in the next month or two, again, because we want to know how the employees see this organization, what issues they have. So in conclusion, again, it's an honor to serve you. That's the way everybody on the board sees it. We take this job very seriously because we know how seriously you take this organization. It's just a joy to see everything that happens here, and we want to make sure it continues on to the far future. Thank you.
Thank you. We really appreciate your taking time to come and talk to us as well. That's very important. All right, now to our business. I've decided to sneak in a little thing here called the President's Report just to bring you up to date on a couple of things. We've talked about in the past about how information about issues gets filtered up into the higher levels of the organization and whatnot. And Reggie's talked about it in the past, we've talked about it in the past, and the basic, you know, if you know, your sink is leaking, you call 5555, you get somebody there right away. On the floor, if the sink in the washroom or the washing machine is leaking, same sort of thing. The washing machine keeps breaking down, or there's some sort of long-term problem that doesn't seem to get resolved. Well, maybe that's the time you then contact the person that's in charge of that department. So they're two different things. And that thing of contacting the person who's the head of that department, I would suggest that you do that judiciously. You know, we don't want to constantly feed information at these people all the time because they're trying to get, as we hear, everything kind of organized and together. And then the third level is when there is a significant problem on your floor or in your building. That's the kind of thing you bring to your floor chair. And you bring to the floor chair, and you discuss that at the floor meetings. And then the floor chair's responsibility, and when I say floor chair, I also mean building chairs. I don't want the Coves to think I'm not acknowledging that. You bring that then to the Residents' Council. Last Thursday, we had the first full-on Residents' Council since the onset of COVID. And I will tell you, it was very well attended. We met in the boardroom. We had 20-some people. Do you remember, Meg, how many people we had there? Around 20. Yeah, it was about 20. Every floor, every building represented. And we had a very long discussion about issues. And there were many different, there were some common ones, right? And some of the common ones included a general concern in many floors, and in particularly one of the Cove buildings, about refreshing the painting in the common areas. Not paintings, paint. Just kind of refreshing stuff. Also concerns about updating some of the furniture. So that, you know, just is kind of a general theme that came around. A couple of other specific ones that residents are worried about a lack of an emergency protocol and information about what to do in various information situations. Again, prior to COVID, there were pamphlets that came out, reports about that, and so it's kind of like, well, when are we going to hear what's going on? What do we do if there's an emergency like an earthquake or that sort of thing? So that's a common concern that now gets addressed, and I'll explain how in a minute. Residents are concerned about the liability coverage for those who are giving rides in the pedicabs. Now that's a really significant issue that cuts across everything. So that's the kind of thing that gets brought to the Residents' Council. We discuss it. So those are just some of the highlights. You can see a little 2-page thing. So what Georgia and I did, sat down with incredible note keeper Meg, and presented, developed this little short form document. Then Georgia and I met with Reggie and said, here it is. Here are the list of the things from the Residents' Council. We went through each of them. He took notes. He has this. The next step is that when we meet with him, and we meet with him every Wednesday, we'll get feedback on this so that when we have the next Residents' Council meeting, we can come back to the Residents' Council and say, here's the status on each of these. So I just want you to know that that process that we've talked about is beginning to really take form and seems to be working well. So let me urge you, when you have floor meetings, that you take the issues to your floor chairs, and then they bring that to us. Now, if you want to know details about this, Meg took really great notes. They have been sent to each of the floor chairs to then be printed and put in the binders in the common areas of each of the floors. So that's how you can access it. And if you have trouble printing it, call Hallie. Happy to print it so that you have that in the book. One thing I want to mention, I was talking to Reggie about it again this morning because I didn't know whether, it was really funny because my wife Jean said, oh no. I said, what? She's Touchdown isn't working. So I'm going to go to my phone. It wasn't. You could open the app, but it wouldn't load anything. So I thought, okay, it's a problem with the app. So I went in the computer. It didn't work. So that's why I sent to Reggie. You know, I said, Reggie, I know you're going to talk about Touchdown. Don't praise it without understanding that this morning it didn't work. By the time I got down here, it was all working again. What I want to do, and Reggie said he's going to do it, is we will have a folder on Touchdown that will be for the Residents' Council, so that we can put all our minutes in there, all of that sort of stuff. So you will have that availability once Touchdown is up and running. Because our hope is to get information out to you as quickly and seamlessly as we can. So that's kind of the update of what's going on there. Yeah, so that's that. Dining committee. Do we have a report, Penny? Penny's not here. There she is. Where? So, the food was good. So let me ask this general question, because you can see the dining committee reports, but I would like to see a show of hands of those of you who think the food has improved over the last 6 months. Absolutely unanimous, right? Thank you. Well, maybe not quite unanimous, but overwhelmingly supportive. So progress is being made. All right, let's hear then the floor reports. And we'll start with the 10th floor. And could I ask you, I know it's a bit, but if you could come up here and talk into the mic, that would be really, really helpful.
I have to get out of the chair first. So 10th floor is doing fine. We have an empty unit. We have a guest suite, and somebody commented we didn't have many people at our meetings, and that's because we have the party floor and the room and so forth. But anyway, we're doing fine. The most exciting news is that Phyllis McFerrin will turn 100 very soon, and her family is gathering, and so we're just very excited about that.
Thank you. 9th floor. So the suggestion was that we have all the floor chairs sit in the front so we don't have to wait. So next time, let's do that. All right? Go ahead, Jean.
Okay, I will. Thank you. We don't have much to report. We are the floor that you are hearing as far as all the construction. And I know that's happened many times in the past, so you are all very patient and tolerant. We have 2 other vacant apartments that we'll have to see what happens. And last time at our floor meeting, I asked for some suggestions as to what we could do for fun on our floor, because we know some of the other floors are having field trips and parties of certain kinds. And one of the suggestions made by Penny Narup, are you here, Penny? Where are you?
Just left.
Oh, she left. Okay. One of the suggestions was that we have a breakfast pajama party.
Oh, no.
Okay, so we're mulling that over, and I just want you all to know that if we do that, we will post photos everywhere. So, thank you.
Not willing to upset domestic tranquility, but the day that's held, I'm going to be out of town. Wow. 8th floor. Thanks, Liz.
We have no vacancies.
Can you pull that? There you go.
We have no vacancies. We had a field trip to the bistro, and toward the end of June, we're going to have a strawberry shortcake festival.
Wow. All right. 7th floor. Okay. 6th floor. Here comes Jackie.
Good morning. We have 3 vacancies still. Not much else to report except we are still having game night the last Friday of the month, and other persons are invited to join us. We have a variety of games that are available, so you can come have fun on the last Friday of the month. And is it okay to ask a question? Or
Sure.
is this not the right time? I just talked to Lisa, our fitness person, and she said because of the incident at the last exercise class that she was given a page of kind of how to respond. And I know you were talking about emergency preparedness, but I was wondering if we could get a copy of what she has, and it might have come from her corporation.
Okay.
But in terms of if somebody suddenly loses consciousness on your floor or falls on your floor, what are the steps that we should take? I think we need to review that, having watched what happened last Friday. So if we could get that from them, so we could talk about it at our floor meetings, that would be awesome.
Yes, thank you. So just to mention, I appreciate that, Jackie. Thank you for doing that, and I will follow up. But that is also the kind of thing that we really want you to bring to the Residents' Council. Because what happens is that you explain that very well, and then somebody else from another floor says, well, here's our situation that is very similar, then that helps us understand the situation globally, so we can come to whomever it is, whether it's Reggie or Tim or whatever, or Rosie, and say, here's the problem across the organization. So great, thank you. 5th floor.
No new residents on our floor. We still have the open apartment, 522, that we've had for a long time, but it's been staged. It's very nice. We are not going to have meetings in July and August, but we're going to have a root beer float party. Plans to be figured out. So that's all we have. And compared to the 10th floor, we have 25 residents on our floor. I think we're the biggest floor as far as number of residents. Yeah.
Wow, okay, thank you. The 4th floor is now approaching the front of the room.
So we're actually the 4th floor and the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different in terms of the sorts of things I can report to you. But I will tell you that we are proceeding, getting much more involved socially and connectively with each other, which is the goal for the day, for this whole portion of the summer, anyway. And Oswell.
That's good, thank you. Cove East. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry. Well.
That's okay. We are full, almost. Jim Blagg and Sarah Allen moved in last week, and great couple. And I think Sharon Doyle will be in at the end of the month, so all the apartments are committed. It was just we haven't got everybody there yet. If you come over for the bistro, you might see some boxes of toilets hanging out in our lobby for a while. We had a project going on where we were updating from the kiddie toilets to some more ADA appropriate ones. Some of these things got over-delivered. I met Gary on my way out, and he's trying to get rid of. We also had them in our garage, too. And I want to thank Tim, I guess he's left already, for helping us figure out the fire alarm system. It turned out we didn't have it, you know, the little red box? We didn't have any of those. Yeah, well, we couldn't figure that out either, but Tim, being Tim, he figured it out. Apparently, the city of Seattle came up with a different fire code, and Cove East was built under that code, which means there's something in the alarm systems up in the ceiling, so we don't get the little red boxes, but we're covered. So he gave a very detailed description for us. And if you come over to the bistro, you'll see the little wagon. I just met it this morning, so please come. It's a great resource, great place to have lunch, or late lunch, early dinner. And let's see, what else? I guess that's it for now. Thanks.
Thank you. The other Cove.
I'm from the other Cove, known as Cove West. On the sad news side, one of our residents had to leave the Cove and move to assisted living. and we're missing her. On the happy news side, if you walk past the other cove on your way to the bistro, you will notice some very lovely new plantings in those turquoise pots that have been sitting out in front for several months now. They used to contain some very lovely plastic flowers, but we have now upgraded, and thanks to a couple of our residents who took the initiative to purchase the flowers and with great talent created these lovely pots. So take note of that, and that's all I can tell you today.
That's a lot. Thank you. Thank you to each floor and building chair. So to summarize, I think it's been an information-filled session. A couple of real important takeaways. Tim's Support Services Team Advisory Committee. Show of hands, how many of you think that's a good idea? Okay, yet another committee, and he'll take care of that, all right? And we'll have new folders on Touchdown, including one for us. And before we conclude, two things. Harry has agreed to stay for a couple of minutes if you have questions about the Board of Trustees, right?
Yeah, and I have one more item I forgot to mention.
Step up to the mic, sir.
Just one other thing the board's been working on, especially Doug Custer, one of our members. I think anybody who's been around here for a long time has known for years people have been talking about a Hearthstone Foundation. It's going to happen. As he said, the match has been lit. We're just getting it to the candle. So within the next few weeks, we expect to have the foundation up. Now, what happens, unfortunately, the way this works is we form the foundation and then we have to apply for tax exemption, 501c3. And that can take up to another 6 months. So it's definitely happening. And the board for the foundation will have residents, at least one or two residents on the board itself. And that's something that Frank and Georgia will work on the process of exactly how that will happen. But it's actually happening, and anybody who's been around here for any length of time will be shocked. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we adjourn, you know, I don't remember last time we met, it was all-you-can-eat day, right? Well, today is National Best Friend Day. So sometime today, call a friend, maybe somebody you haven't talked to in a long time, just to say hi. And with that, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Do I hear a second? All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you for coming.